What is up, Jabonis? JJ back here with my boy Stevie. Now, I don't know if this has ever been addressed. I think we addressed it last year. Stevie, Steven.
No one outside of Run Pure calls me Stevie, but once it started, it kind of stuck, and I'm not on enough shows to be able to tell people to not call me that. So, at times when someone else gives you a nickname, you just got to ride with it.
I met a Steven years ago. I mean, obviously, we all know different Steves and whatnot, but that because I often just give nicknames to folks, and then if they don't like it, I expect them to say it, or sometimes I'll go out of my way to ask. But I remember, I was like, oh, sorry, all right, so Steve, how about? And he was like, no, my name's Steven. And I'm like, oh, all right,
yeah,
all right, that's how it's gonna be. So yeah, I mean, ultimately, I'm a little more cautious on it now, but it's good that you're able to play with the flow.
Yeah, everyone in my life just calls me by my last name. Everyone just calls me Boynton. So.
Boynton, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll start doing that. Boynton.
Yeah. Change the tide a little bit. See if it catches on here.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Okay, so interested to talk a little college basketball, and we'll try to do this. I mean, I'll be on this show weekly. We'll try to get Stevie on as much as he can, based on his availability. He's a busy guy. But obviously Saturday's got to be one of your favorite days, because even Sunday's a good day, but it's still always watered down slates on Sundays. So Saturday's always a big slate in general. You get a ton of games, ton of action. Let me ask you this. How do you, as somebody who plays DFS and bets, how do you limit yourself, before we go into the slate, how do you limit yourself on all the options that you like in a given slate or game as far as your bankroll management goes? Because obviously Saturdays can get out of hand if you let them. What's your approach to Saturdays?
Yeah, Saturdays can definitely get out of hand, especially on the DFS side, because college basketball doesn't get the best action during the week. And then Saturday comes and there's just a lot more in the lobby than you're used to. So I go in with a plan for every slate for DFS with, which contests I'm going to enter, who I'm going to attack in the lobby, stuff like that. And then I kind of correlate that to my bets a lot. I do the same thing when I'm betting baseball. We've talked about it, kind of correlating the DFS with betting team totals, things like that. So, but as far as bankroll, I usually try to pick, 3 to 5 games pre-flop. And then actually on Saturdays, I do a lot of live betting. Been pretty good this year at kind of identifying spots. A lot of these college teams, as we've seen, go on big swings, big runs. So teams that you liked pre-flop who maybe go down early or, go through a 0 for 10 stretch. Lots of great live betting opportunities, if you're plugged in watching the games during the day.
Yeah, for sure. Between this and NBA, I mean, there's sports that have a tremendous value in live betting. Of course, if you have the time, right? If you have the time allotted to you, you dedicate the time to it. Especially if you, like you mentioned, you give yourself pre-flop numbers where you're like, you know what? I know this line's 2.5 or -2.5, but if I can get them at money line as a dog, catch those extra points my way, at the 16-minute mark or the 12-minute mark. Yeah, why not? Why not wait it? So, definitely prefer folks that are willing to live bet in sports like college basketball and NBA. But of course, everybody doesn't have that luxury of time. Let's just slide into this slate. Right before we do, though, Stevie, only one person can get me to wear this hat forward. That would be you. I'm actually surprised. I don't know how many people on the Run Pure end wear it forward. I know you do.
I wear it forwards when I don't have the Run Pure shirt on. If I had the shirt on, I would wear it backwards.
Okay.
Just trying to get some sort of Run Pure on the screen, I guess.
Okay, love it. Tercero, Havana, what's going on, boys? So yeah, let's go into the slate. We talked a little bit before the show, Stevie, and or Boynton, as the cool kids say. And it looks like we're both heavily in agreement on one game. So I'll let you begin to talk about it, and then I'll give my pick in it with the Butler matchup.
Yeah, so I think Butler comes into this game in a really good spot. The Johnnies are coming off that road win against Georgetown. That was on Thursday night. So just 2 nights ago, now travel for a noon game, going to Hinkle, to face this real meat grinder Butler squad, who's now back at full strength. They're not a great team, but they've played the gauntlet of Big East teams so far. So JJ, get this. So they played Seton Hall, Xavier twice, Nova, UConn twice, and Providence. They've actually won all other Big East games besides those against the studs. And, as we know, the Johnnies are far from studs, quick turnaround. Um, Before we went live, I think you're getting plus money here at home with Butler. Bo Hodges, the star wing, has kind of struggled the last two games. I think this is a perfect bounce back spot here at home, to pace up that they're getting from St. John's. So yeah, give me Butler on the money line here, getting a little juice.
Love it. And for me, I love Butler's team total here over. You mentioned how St. John's is going to speed this team up, and I'll be honest, like Butler's half court offense sucks. I would think that they would do their best. I don't want to say they're going to run with St. John's because it's not what they do anyway. But I would think they would casually at times want to run with St. John's to get free baskets. St. John's, to their credit, they're actually not a bad half-court defensive team. But man, you can sneak on them in transition because St. John's gonna love to run anyway. So I'm interested to see Butler's approach to this game as it starts. Like, do they keep extra guys in to rebound and not worry about moving pace with them? Do they sell out to rebound to ensure that they can get the possession back and then slow the game back down? But regardless, I do think that their team total at 69.5 makes a ton of sense. I know Butler doesn't go over this number often, but they also don't play a team that plays this fast often. So I love the spot. I'm glad that you like the money line as well. So we'll call, show's best bet is Butler money line. And then
yeah, well, and so St. John's, their last 10 games, they've only played one under 70 possessions. So we've seen them be able to pace up even the snails of the conference, like Providence. They played Providence last week with 75 possessions, and that's the highest possessions for a Providence game. So I do think that St. John's just inherently paces up everyone just with their style of play, fourth in tempo. So I love the Butler team total as well.
Yeah, awesome. Another spot I like, and I know you've been a Big Ten guy this year, so I'm interested in your thoughts. Michigan and Purdue, these are two teams that often shoot, but they're also two teams that play really good defense, more on the Michigan end. I just think this total is a correlated number, and I get KenPom's got this higher as well, but this is a correlated number of how good these two teams have looked offensively. But this could certainly be, I don't want to say it's going to be a rock fight, but this could certainly be a defensive battle underneath where the refs kind of let them play. It's not like these two teams run up and down the floor. They're just extremely efficient. I think you get a spot where teams sell out to pull down defensive rebounds, slow the game, run their half-court sets because these two are very good half-court offenses. I like it under 146, Stevie. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is an interesting number, right? Because Purdue has just been so damn efficient in every single game in conference play. I think Michigan tries to drag them into a half-court game, like you said. The only concern I have is that Michigan just hasn't been as good defensively inside the arc this year without Franz Wagner and Isaiah Livers. But yeah, I mean, we've seen some money come in on the Michigan side. I think that correlates well with the under, just because if you think Purdue blows them out, then you probably think Purdue puts up 85, 90 here, and I think that. I mean, this is a massive game for Michigan. They haven't had a win besides the Indiana win over a top 50 KenPom team since basically Thanksgiving. This is a huge game for Michigan. I do think they show up here. The market agrees with that, and the way for them to keep this game close is to turn it into a grinder. And also, Michigan's going to have to hit perimeter shots for this game to go over, and I just don't trust Houston and Brooks to consistently hit shots here on the road.
Yeah, this is a big number. Like I mean, don't get me wrong. In the Big Ten, this isn't a number uncommon, but you're often seeing numbers like this with teams that play at pace, right? This is a number purely based on offensive efficiencies. So I think the pace is going to be slow. I think they can get there, but I think the way they get there is this is either got to be a foul fest, which results in a ton of extra free throws, or one or both of these teams are going to have to shoot sub 50% for the game, and they're doing it against decent defenses. So I like the under here at this number. I know these teams, if you look at their box scores, they score like 80 every game. But that's not against each other. So I like the spot, and hope it gets there for us. Before I give my last pick, Stevie, is there another play you like, whether it's afternoon, late, another spot you've been targeting, or at least maybe targeting a live spot in game? What's going on today?
Yeah. So Kansas here at home against Baylor. This is a really interesting spot. They're a small favorite. Remy Martin's been ruled out, which I think is keeping this spread closer than it should be. We get Agbaji back from COVID. He's confirmed or confirmed. Yeah. DeJuan Harris is playing really well, actually better than Remy has recently. And they're coming off that just completely embarrassing home loss last weekend against Kentucky. I think Fogg is going to be insane today. You're playing the reigning national champs at home. KU has not lost back-to-back home games since 1989, JJ. I mean, that is just an insane stat. Baylor's come back to earth a bit of late. We get LJ Cryer and Flagler are both game-time calls here. Clearly not 100% if they go. I mean, both guys have been battling injuries on and off all season. If they miss, I think KU can kind of roll here. They're crucial shot makers on the perimeter, and I think KU's going to score pretty well here. And if they're out, you're relying on guys like Kendall Brown and Sohan, who are, they've been really good freshmen, but it's still freshmen going into Fogg for the first time against a pissed off Kansas team. And, if Cryer and Flagler do end up playing, I still feel comfortable laying under a possession at home, given all the circumstances I was just talking about.
Yeah, definitely like the spot. I have a question for you about Matthew Meyer. Is it Mayer? Meyer? Either way. I expected this dude to really take the reins on this offense this year. His numbers are all down. He's playing more minutes, but he's scoring practically the same points he was. His field goal numbers are just everything is down. What do you think is going on with a kid like that? That when you watched him last year with this team, where he was an extra player, an extra guy off the bench, that was a spark for them offensively. Usually in college, you see these dudes once some of their studs leave. These individuals step up and become one of the better scorers on the team, and sometimes even in the nation. What do you think? How does that get?
I was expecting more from him as well, but it turns out that we were looking at the wrong emerging studs. It has been Flagler, it has been Cryer as the shot makers on this team, which is why they're so important to this game, coming in as game time calls. Mayer's a little slow-footed, so he's not great defensively, and he's only shooting 33% from three this year, which is really disappointing after he shot 40% last year. Part of that might be because he's now up against the best defenders on the team instead of against the bench rotational guys. I just don't think that he's like this big NBA talent that we thought he was. He's more of a role player on a very good team who has awesome hair.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a shame overall to see it. But like I said, it is what it is. Last but not least from me, so I'm going back to William and Mary. Games at 4:00. They play NC Wilmington. So William and Mary cost me an over this week, an over that shouldn't have costed me. I think that was a game where the live total was 17 points over the number with 11 minutes left, and it still went under. I like this team. They play terrible defense. And when I say I like this team for overs, they play terrible defense. They play at decent pace. Wilmington definitely might try to slow this game down. But Wilmington doesn't play slow by any means. Wilmington plays good, really good offensively. I know these types of conferences don't get a whole lot of love from a lot of people. But for me, William Mary is just a nut over team with how they're built and how they play. I think you're still getting soft numbers in them. I know it didn't work for me earlier in the week. But I still don't think books are adjusting enough for this team and how they play on a per possession basis, offensively and defensively, to increase points. So yeah, I like the first. You could split it first half over, full game over. You can get depending how many books you have access to. You get the first half over at 65.5, -102 FanDuel, and then full game over 137.5 at BetMGM, -110. You can, again, I think DK has it 120. You're just going to pay extra if you go to different places for it. And FanDuel's full game over is 138.5. So always leverage the best number you can. But I like, William and Mary, UMC, Wilmington, over that number. Let's see, Wilmington. 37. That game should be on ESPN3 for you folks at home that aren't going to be able to watch or don't think you'll be able to watch. It should be on ESPN3. Okay, so Stevie, you did some DFS stuff today. Maybe we'll end this show with what are some studs you're targeting today, or guys you like in DFS for folks that do play?
Yeah, it's an interesting slate here. There are a couple teams that are just kind of mispriced based on some injuries, namely Florida State losing Malik Osborne and now Anthony Polite. You do run into the Leonard Hamilton, trying to play everyone but the towel boy rotation, but hopefully that cuts down the number of guys that he plays. So I think that Caleb Mills is one of my favorite players on the slate. He's priced down a bit from where we've seen throughout the year, and I think he's just gonna have to play a ton here in a big home game. They've dropped a couple. I mean, this is kind of their season here. They could fold up shop if they lose at home against a really good Wake team who was going to pace them up. So Mills I like, and then as far as the spend ups, we have one of the best, I think, games of the year in the Big Ten. We got Illinois going to Indiana. Kofi against Trace Jackson Davis. This is going to be an awesome matchup. Kofi's been unstoppable, especially of late, and they get Curbelo back. So, the pick and roll is back in action. Lots of, easy points for Kofi, and he's pricey, but I think the upside is definitely there for him to even be more expensive as we move forward, just as a usage monster who, last year we were seeing him play 28-ish minutes. He's playing 33, 34 now, JJ, and that's a huge difference for a big man who's averaging, well over a fantasy point a minute. So my favorite stud is Kofi. My favorite mid-range guy is Caleb Mills. And then my favorite cheap guy, again, because of injuries, Javon Johnson for DePaul has really emerged as a guy playing a ton of minutes, grabbing a lot of usage, and DK just hasn't reacted to this change in role for him. He's way too cheap here. Should be popular on the slate today, though.
Now, let me ask you this. Kofi's a monster, so there's not much doubt there. Before I ask you on that game, how do you approach a guy you like in DFS a lot in relation to player props? Do you find yourself trying to middle yourself, or do you find yourself overexposing with player props? Because obviously with the legal markets now, player props are just insane at the college level. So if you really like a guy, do you find yourself firing on extra props? Do you find yourself betting props and maybe not leveraging DFS? Do you go all in? What are your thoughts there?
I'm more of an all-in guy than a hedge guy. If I have conviction on a spot, I want to capitalize on being right as much as I can, right? So doing the projections, I monitor what the player props are, but there are some situational spots, and there's one today with Duke. I think Banchero has his best matchup on the entire season. UNC lost Dawson Garcia. It's kind of a contextual thing, but he was their best interior defender at the 4, and now they've got to play Brady Manick 35 minutes. We all know Brady Manick, the 9th-year senior from Oklahoma, just a slow-footed big. I think Paulo is going to have a big game here, and when those player props fire, I will be looking at some Paulo overs, just because it might not be a spot where the projections pick up all of that, with the individual matchup between him and Manick, where I just think that he's going to beat him like a drum. So Most of it is projection based, but there are some situational spots like that, where a matchup is just too good to ignore, where I think that, a number might be a little lower than it should be.
Now your boy Gavin's got a few he likes. Edwards from Syracuse over his number. Now I like this. So to me, it's got to be a matchup spot because I know he hasn't been pulling down boards to this level recently. He doesn't play a lot of minutes. I don't uh, foul trouble's always a concern with Edwards. Over 7.5, your boy likes, and then Paolo, as you mentioned as well, at 19.5. What are your thoughts on some of Gavin's numbers?
Gavin is all in on Edwards for DFS. We discussed it on the show last night. Um, Louisville is just a team that we want to attack right now. They have the new coach. They're screwed around with the rotations. Malik Williams is out. Their best interior defender. I think that Louisville is kind of circling the drain here. They've lost 7 of 8. Kind of a team, and Syracuse has been really good at home as far as efficiency and scoring the ball. I think Edwards plays well here. The issue, like you said, is the fouls, right? Like if he picks up 2 in the first half, then he's going to really struggle to get the 8 rebounds. But yeah, I mean, you're getting even money on a guy who, will probably walk into a double-double if he doesn't foul here. But you just do have that risk.
Yeah, and then Powell for Duke, 19.5. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I will be hitting Paulo overs. The big thing with him is early in the season they were kind of limiting him in the low 30s minutes. Now that conference plays here, he's playing as much as they need. This is a huge game. K's last game there at UNC. I think Duke plays well, and I think it's going to be on the back of Banchero here.
The thing with Powell, like he hasn't even been hitting his threes recently. Like if he starts sticking them, yeah, I mean he could slowly get his points per game number up, or you can kind of find him consistently going 20 or over. I think he just hasn't found any consistency with the 3 ball, which has been limiting his scoring. But you bet a prop with him, he's going to be firing. I mean the dude shoots as soon as he gets off the bus.
Oh yeah, I mean he's shooting 32% from 3. I think pretty much everyone thought that he was going to be a better shooter. So, kind of expect some regression there. But yeah, like you said, he's firing 22 shots in his last game, 15. As the season gets deep, Coach K knows where his bread is going to be buttered in March. So might as well get his best player going here late in the season.
Yeah, and you almost wish a guy like him would just do more to get to the free throw line too. Like, I mean, decent free throw shooter, and you always see it too, right? You kind of saw it in the NBA when Harden started to make his rise to become the scorer that he became. It started with him getting to the free throw line a lot more because it was freebies for him. You look at Paolo and he's just not getting to the stripe. So between him starting to land threes and getting to the stripe, I think you're going to start to see his numbers slowly rise. And as you said, he's a better shooter than he's looked. So hopefully that kind of rounds itself out. One thing I wanted to finalize with you, Stevie. I know you mentioned Illinois Indiana game. There's one other game I want to touch on as well. But Illinois Indiana. What's your thoughts on the game? Do you have a live spot? Is it just going to be a game you find fun to watch? What are your thoughts on that game? Because it's a big one.
Yeah, so being here in Illinois, I can't use the legal bets, sadly, but I like the spot for Illinois here. It's tough to win at Indiana, but this is just a rough matchup for Indiana as a whole. Illinois runs you off the 3-point line and basically makes you challenge Kofi inside to score, and Indiana's guards are just not up to snuff in the Big Ten. They kind of have this rotation of undersized non-shooters. So I just think that they are going to struggle to score here. And then TJD, obviously their best player, all American, is going to have his hands full with Kofi. Kofi kind of gave him problems in their matchup last year. So I think you're getting a point or two right now with Illinois. I think you can probably get a better live line if they go down. But yeah, I would be on the Illinois side here. Have not bet it myself, but if they go down, 8-2 or something early and like a +4 or 5 pops, I would love that, outside of a possession here in what should be a low scoring, really close game.
Yeah, I think that Illinois is, in my opinion at least, much better than their 16-5 record shows. Now, the
Yeah.
problem is they've lost these types of games, so you're hoping that, they don't, trip over themselves. But you're right. If Kofi can stay out of foul trouble, this should be very rough go around scoring for Indiana. And
Mhm.
Illinois should have their easy buckets on their end. So definitely don't mind that look at all. And I like your point on trying to hit it live versus getting crazy, hitting
Yeah.
it game or going all in pregame.
It's
Um, yeah, go ahead.
especially if you see Curbelo get in the game early, and he only played 12 minutes last game. If he's like the first sub off the bench, I think that's a good sign that he's going to play 20 plus here, and he really is their engine. So I would look for that in a live bet too.
Now, before I get into the one game, so you guys like Mills over 2 assists. Does he mean Caleb Mills?
I assume so. Mills is more of a shooter. But yeah, I mean, I think Mills plays, I don't know, 30, 32 minutes here. We've got his assists at 3. So, I mean, overs with assists are kind of tough just because they're kind of tough to project, especially when the margin's at thin. But yeah, I mean, we have him projected for more than 2. So
Nice, nice. And let's talk on one more game, Stevie. So the Michigan State Rucker game. I think you can look at this game from a few different angles, right? If you're definitely somebody who's relatively low on Rutgers, or your priors were low on Rutgers, you may be wondering why this line is what it is. There may be the folks that just think Michigan State's been having a really down. Well, it's really their schedule, to be honest. It's a little frustrating in terms of the ease of it, if you will. Because I'd argue, I'd argue Illinois is a better team than Michigan State. They don't look like
yeah, I
it.
think so, definitely.
So, do you think the strength of schedule plays into it here? Because Rutgers, I'd argue, has had it tough, and Rutgers is a good team at home. But what's your thoughts on this game, as it is one of the bigger games in the slate?
Yeah, I mean, Rutgers at the rack, getting points. I know Gavin's all over Rutgers here. I tailed him. Michigan State is a team that we've been talking about fading down the stretch. I think that they've really been lucky so far in conference play. I don't really like their team makeup. I think this is a great spot to fade Michigan State here. Kind of starting a trend as something that we're going to be doing for the next month, kind of leading into the tournament. A team that is kind of a public team, there are a lot of Sparty fans out there, and they've started the season hot. This is a great opportunity to fade them. It's not comfortable betting on Rutgers just because at times they just really struggle to score. But at the rack, getting points, hard to argue with that.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually don't mind. I mean, obviously, me being in Jersey, I can't live hit or I can't hit unless I go to New York, which has been fun for me actually because I am in New York semi often. It's been nice to be able to hit Jersey teams from New York.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it, and but yeah, that should be a good game, and the Illinois game should be a good one. I appreciate you coming on, Stevie, talking through some multiple angles from multiple games. Gavin as well, helping out. Gavin, you're more than welcome to join this show anytime you'd like, bud. And I appreciate you, jumping in with props as well. Havana bringing some questions. But yeah, ultimately, I'll definitely be back tomorrow talking a little college basketball. After the Super Bowl, I'll start doing this show again with Holden on Sundays. So for those that have missed his face, you will be fortunate enough to see him again. We'll try to get Stevie on here most Saturdays, but look, no stress, no pressure, Steve, Mr. Boynton. If you can't make it, you can't make it. But no, much more improved show with having another voice on here, especially talking college basketball. So appreciate that, and Gavin, of course, open door invitation. But guys, look, it's a big slate. Whether you're betting sports, whether you're playing DFS, whether you're just jerking off all day, do it responsibly. Okay, you don't need your house looking like a paintball arena. But other than that, guys, stay safe, gamble responsibly, and as always, run pure. I'll see you guys tomorrow.